Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Mindful CEO.
Oh, yes,
Mindful CEO. Fresh off a rebrand here. The site is updated. The album art for the podcast is updated. So we're rolling, Aaron. We're rolling.
We are rolling. We are rolling in this thing called the Mindful CEO, and we're really in mumbling about it. Oh my God, there's a whole other prompt there. So we had a prompt for today, which was let's talk about the Mindful CEO compared to the mindless CEO, compare and contrast. But what just came up for me, and we'll have to sidebar it because I'm probably still too excited. But the mumble phase from John Mayer. I just got done with a weekend watching John Mayer perform, and when you mumble long enough, holy shit, something great can happen. And
you should just preface that or just describe it because we can connect it.
So good. So we're going to do it now because here we are, and we never table anything on this podcast, and we never edit anything. So if you're one of the three people that listens to this podcast regularly, you know this. So one of the things we've talked about in the past a lot is the mumble phase, which we stole from John Mayer, who talks about that's in the context of writing songs is, he'll come up with a tune and then he'll mumble sounds until words form around the sounds. And I've had other artist friends that do the exact same thing. And every time we interview an artist of any kind, that is a very similar process. That's a known methodology for creating something, and the more we talk about it, the more it makes sense. You sketch something out until the inspiration comes down and you get to see what it wants to form. Dylan talked about he didn't rhyme "didn't you" with "kidding you" in Like a Rolling Stone. It just when he saw it on the paper, he was sort of knocked back that it had happened.
Wow.
And that's what creativity is like. And we're fascinated by creativity on this podcast because that's sort of where the magic of life is. And we're not interested. We're going to get into the mindful CEO part of this in a minute, but that's where the magic of life is. So we stole that from John Mayer because we're just fascinated with the mumble phase. And as you can tell by the first 4 minutes of this podcast, we love mumbling through things because inspiration comes and then we get to follow that thread. Right. The other good metaphor that we love here is Harold and the Purple Crayon. And we're just following that crayon. And so that's my connection to John. And that's this podcast connection to John Mayer. And then my personal connection to John Mayer is he's the guitarist for Dead and Company, which is what Bob Weir and Mickey Hart, the guitarist and drummer of the Grateful Dead, have been at work on for the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's got to be more than that. It's 2016. So what is that? 7 years. So they've been at it for about 7 years, and they brought in John Mayer, and John Mayer's been playing, and he talks, and you can watch interviews with John talk about the structure of the band, the way the Dead play is unique. It's a unique phenomenon, and mostly rock and roll is designed to, the players in the band are designed to be around in certain, if you listen to rock, you'll hear this, in service of the guitar player, in service of the guitar solo. Everything leads up to the guitar solo, and it's all in service of the guitar solo. Or it's not, and it's in service of the song, like the Beach Boys. I'm thinking about, there's no real guitar solo in a Beach Boys song, but you think about Sabbath or any rock band, that's Van Halen. It's leads up to guitar solo happens, and everything is designed around that. And the way the Dead have always played, and really have always played through Garcia's years, was everyone is in service of everyone else. Everyone's in service of everyone else. Every note that every single person plays has to make everyone else sound better. It's very intentional, very much like jazz. That's a very jazz phenomenon, that we don't know where we're going. I mean, we know the outline of where we're going. We know the chart of where we're going. We know the structure, but we don't know how we're getting there. And however we get there, we want it to sound good. So you better be listening to what everyone else is playing, because what you play has to match what everyone else is going to play, but none of us know what that's exactly going to be. And it's going to be an emerging phenomenon. Okay.
Wow.
And after 7 years of doing it, on Saturday night, it was the best piece of music I'd ever seen performed in my life. The best. And there's not, it was a combination of things, right? So always time, space, phenomena happen in a particular time at a particular place. And if you haven't been to the Gorge in Washington to see a concert, you don't really have the experience, but it is, I don't know. Have you been there, Chris?
I've never been. I mean, obviously driving through, and I saw your picture. So you know, you can see the amphitheater. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous. It's amazing. So, it's an amazing phenomenon. And so that helps, doesn't hurt, right? Yeah. And just in terms of the vibration of the space, super high. And then this group of people, there's not a fan base. I think Swifties probably get up there, but they don't have the longevity of Deadheads in terms of a fan base that's particularly interested in what these people are doing. And the Dead are unique in that phenomenon. 60 years will do that, right? Yeah. And so there's that. So people are really listening for it. And then what these guys wound up doing, now, if you don't like the music, it doesn't mean anything to you. It wouldn't have occurred for you that way. But I'm telling you, for however many people show up at the Gorge, and I have no idea how many people that is, 5,000. I don't know how many people the Gorge seats. It was a demonstration of, if you mumble long enough and you're willing to engage in the discipline of listening that way to each other, and you're willing to make mistakes, and you're willing to have concerts or songs or moments that suck, that just don't hit, that are just like, oh, that was wrong. That was not what we were going for. If you're willing to do that long enough, man, some magic shit's going to happen. And that, I mean, I'm 60, so that's 44 years of seeing those guys at some level. And I love music, and I have never seen a musical performance like that. So it was fabulous. Anyway, so that's that. That
feels I mean, that's the great contrast now to this thought about being a mindless CEO, that the idea that in other words, what we could say is what you experienced was something that came from a mindful way of playing music. There was a mindful curation there. Something happened, and it happened because people were being mindful of each other. They were mindful of the music. They were mindful of the listening, not just showing up to a script. There was, but the opposite of that, we just go polarities for a minute, and you look at mindless now to try to distinguish that. I see a lot of people who want the quick fix. They're not patient enough to listen to each other, to see what's being created in the space. They're just coming in with an agenda. Here's my goal. Here's my quarterly performance. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And there's no awareness of the space. There's only, this is the thing I'm out to accomplish, and I will accomplish it. And I think that's Lamborghini-ling. That's more of goal culture, where I'm going to get mine, even if it's at the expense of others. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's that thing about automatic that you were just saying, that the preset agenda, certainly, there's a unique phenomenon again. So I'm just going to keep leaning on this thing with the Dead, but last night was also the first, Saturday night, whatever, was the first time, and in my 44 years of listening, that I'd ever seen them play the same song 2 nights in a row. Not me personally have seen it. I've never seen it happen, that they play the same song 2 nights in a row. Wow. And that's, most bands, rock bands for sure, go on tour and they have a set list, and that's the set list every night. I played in a band, and it was critical that we had a set list because we didn't know each other well enough, or didn't know the music well enough, and didn't have a kind of intensity in listening that we could play anything, anytime. We have to do the same shit in order so that we could remember it. And the Dead have never done that. Literally never done that. This is I think Dead and Company, now that they're older, is the first time they ever go out with a preset set list anyway, period. Mostly for my entire history of watching them, they had no idea what they were going to play the next song. Which requires an enormous amount of mindfulness. There's a mindlessness available in, like, with the way we drive cars, the way you and I drive is mindless. You know, you and I, and it wasn't always that way. Right. We could, everything was a freak show. If you've taught your children to drive recently, you know, everything is like, everything's a big deal. But you and I can now do it while we're texting, which we don't do because that's stupid and dangerous, but we could, right? But that would be a level of mindlessness. And when you run your business that way, you know, you're going in and I'm time to make the donuts and I'm going to get on the phone, I'm going to call and I'm going to do my dialing and, you know, just run through it and check the boxes and say that say I did it, all that kind of mindless activity versus what's our intention for the day? What are we out to create with this client? What am I out to create with this customer? What am I out to create with this employee, this agent, this partner? What am I actually creating here? And is what I'm creating going to make the difference with them? And what's it going to take? And that's to your point, Chris. What's it going to take to make a difference with this person? Yeah. Is a different question than, come on, let's go. What are you waiting for? Right.
Yeah. With this person, or it could be with my legacy. I think, you know, the legacy is one of our pillars here, but a lot of times people think about, this is a generalization, right? But people think about legacy as it relates to net worth, wealth gaps, which is all great. That's great. That's awesome. And some people don't even get there in terms of like purpose and true north. Like, what is my life for? Is a question that often it takes mumbling through and failing forward in and having it go like, it's not this, it's not this. I know, because I've asked that question for a long time. What's my purpose? And only now do I feel like I have a path to run on. I could do the rest of my life that feels good to me. But if we're not patient with it, we're not willing to be mindful of it, then we'll put ourselves on autopilot because it's just easier. It's just easier to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna make the donuts, or I'm gonna, you know, write my next handwritten note, or whatever the thing is.
And I don't, I think we're aware of the amount of energy it takes to be mindful. This is, you know, we're now dwelling in what Kahneman would call system 1, system 2. Yeah. Right. A way we avoid system 1 thinking. System 1's slow. Yeah.
That's how you've described it to me.
Yeah. So fine. So system 1 is slow thinking, is actual thinking. It requires energy, and the kind of thinking, and mindfulness requires energy, presence, awareness. You know, we've talked about this. I don't know that this is a fact, but it came to me as a fact, and I'm going to use it as a fact. And if you look it up and it's not a fact, then I'm wrong. But that chess champion will burn 6,000 calories at a chess tournament because of the amount of energy the brain is using to think through the moves. And we are not that's not an ordinary thought. That's not an ordinary common thinking. That thinking takes energy, but watch how you deal with or avoid thinking. And that's by design. Thinking takes energy. Your brain is designed to keep you alive. Your brain is to have you survive. So it conserves energy. And it conserves energy by using system 2 thinking, which is mindless, which is automatic, which is, you know, oh, that thing looked like a tiger, I'll duck anyway. It doesn't matter that it was an orange. It was safer to duck, you know, or to hide. And it didn't matter that it was something else because you're alive. And that's the most important part to system, your reptilian brain, your amygdala, system 2 thinking, all that automatic thinking. And, you know, we avoid mindfulness. You know, the practice of meditation requires an enormous amount of energy just to stop working. Right. Yep. and get present. So there's all of that that's available. And so that, the mindless CEO as an idea, the mindless CEO as an idea is what we would, is the automatic kind of, get shit done. Let's go, get it. Here's the processes. Doesn't, you don't like it, leave, smile and dial. What are you waiting for? Let's, and it's the norm. It's interesting to watch the degree to which, I think it'd be interesting, Chris, for us to dive into and maybe even talk to people that know something about it. Levels of satisfaction, personal satisfaction, life satisfaction, fulfillment. My sense is that those are rare, right? Working with, over the years with tens of thousands of people, it's rare that people have a deep sense of accomplishment and a deep sense of fulfillment. And it's not linked up to the mindlessness of their actions.
But it is linked from the mindlessness of their actions.
It's a complete function of the mindless.
Right.
I don't meet a lot of mindful people that are dissatisfied.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know people that actually practice gratitude and practice bringing mindful awareness to what's happening that aren't deeply satisfied in the space of wonder. I think those things are directly connected. That when, in other words, there's I guess there's an assertion there in the background, which is if you have an experience of dissatisfaction with your work, here you are as a CEO, and you're dissatisfied with the business you are running, that's a function of mindlessness. There's a bunch of automatic things that there are assumptions, things to be true, things to be false, about you, about the business, about your clients, about everything. That is just the air that you breathe, water to the fish, air to the bird, your assumptions to you about your business. Mindless. That's a mindless CEO, right? I think it would be difficult to be a mindful well, I don't know if it'd be difficult. It'd be interesting to take on. If I brought mindful awareness, kind awareness to what I do, would I be left more satisfied or less satisfied with the business?
I like it as a continuum because I can find in any day of the week moments where I'm being mindless or mindful. And it's not a label or an identity as in you reached mindfulness as a CEO and you are forever, granted passage of, I'm like, but I think that but this is the path. This is the journey. This is the conversation I'm interested in this community and in this podcast is having the conversations that bring me back to a perspective that say, right. Yes. Because I felt that this week. I felt some automation, some frustration, some what was the word you used? Discontent, satisfaction with things in some ways. And you're saying in this moment, that's a function of being mindless. And I'm like, it's interesting. Yeah. How would I bring mindful? And maybe I'm bringing, maybe I bring gratitude to that, or maybe I bring, it's just a question. What do I bring to it? It has me. That's really encouraging. That's fantastic.
That you could bring mindfulness to it.
Yeah. And that we could have a conversation that you and I in community in this moment are having a conversation that's going, there's something I could bring here.
That would bring me closer to, or would dissipate or allow satisfaction to emerge.
And that would put me back in the seat of agency in my life, that I could be in the seat of having a say of my experience in this moment, rather than being a victim of circumstance, that I get to say, because I bring mindfulness to it. I mean, that's just fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, it's good. And that brings up the opportunity of the mindfulness meditations. I told you earlier off camera that I had run a gratitude meditation with my team, and that was very much a function of, and the results they got, the degree to which they came into the call dissatisfied, upset, agitated, confronted, confused, normal realtor stuff. I mean, nothing about it was like, oh my gosh, you can't, they were dealing with the ebbs and flows, ups and downs of their business. And, we did that meditation, brought awareness to what was going on with them in their bodies, their physical sensations, how they, that were acting and how they were feeling about it. And just bringing the awareness to it in 15 or 20 minutes, a relatively short period of time, left them freed up to be able to perform again and way more effective in the presence of what they were doing, what they were up to, what their purpose was versus, I could spend a day upset and not notice that I was upset until my wife talks to me and I snap at her. And then she'll be like, and I realized I was upset about something that happened 4 hours ago, but I'm not in the presence of it because I'm not intentionally bringing mindfulness to it.
That's good. Yeah. Man. That's to me, the practice of mindfulness, that there is a practice of it. Like waking up in the morning and being like, and I'm going to bring mindfulness today. Have you ever seen the movie About Time? Had Rachel McAdams in it. Had the dude from Love Actually, who was the rock star. Anyway, awesome movie, About Time.
Oh, I love the guy. I just saw Love Actually, so I remember. I don't know his name. I don't know the actor.
I love him so much. Anyway, it's such a great story. Without spoiling anything, like there's a punchline in there that is like that you have the ability to live this day predetermined in your mind before you actually live it, that if you had lived it and you could live it again, and you would live it again with only the best parts or the best intentions or mindfulness with it, how you would live it would be so different. And now everybody just need to go watch that. It's called About Time.
Great. I'm totally looking for it.
Fantastic. Anyway.
Yeah. And you brought it up or you touched on it. And I think it's important to remember for us that I want to say mindfulness is the journey.
Yeah.
That it's not the destination. There is no waking up mindful. There's no, you can set an intention for being mindful, and probably without it, nothing's going to happen. But even with it.
No, yeah. That's the whole point that you started with the dead, which is there's a mumbling. Mindfulness is mumbling, like they're mindful mumbling. Mumbling is a process. It's, you don't wake up with the song. You don't wake up mindful. You mumble your way there.
Yeah. And then, there's a little timer you can get for your phone. I used it for a while, then it became background noise, but it just rings a bell and it interrupts you, and it does it at a random interval. And the intention is that in the moment that it happens, you stop and breathe and get present to what's actually happening, because the assertion is that you're not present to what's happening. You're, by design, you are living a mindless life, not a problem, not a design flaw. It's a feature, not a bug. It's the way we operate. So to assume that we're mindful is a mistake, right? It's like to assume you have integrity is a mistake. You're always operating mindlessly until you notice that you're operating mindlessly. And now, as soon as you notice you're operating mindlessly, you're operating mindfully.
Yeah, beautiful.
So the game is to catch yourself operating mindlessly. Not that it's bad, not that it's the default. It's what's going to fall. It's where you're going to default to.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And then, I think the opportunity from here, Chris, is for us to, in the practice of that, share about what's opening up and what we're mindfully creating about, this business and our podcast and what we're up to and how to leverage that, or how that being mindful, let's see. how bringing awareness and mindfulness to what we're committed to leaving as our legacy opens up what, how to leverage our lives to fulfill that legacy, and where leadership might be missing. And even if there's other, what it'd be interesting to experiment with that, like what's present when mindfulness is present.
Yeah, I think that would be not only an interesting conversation for the podcast, but I think as a community to have a series where you're like mindful goals. I mean, that just feels like a contradiction to me, but, or, like an oxymoron, but I don't want to just believe that mindfulness is about meditation. Like there's a part of me that likes to produce. I like to build. I want to do stuff. And of all the stuff I want to do, it's easy in the doing of them to get back to mindless. And how do I reconcile this drive to build something, this future that is not in the present moment, this thing I'm invested in, and bring mindfulness to that process? I just love that conversation, because I don't think I don't think that happens very often. I don't think I don't think that's our default, to your point.
Yeah, it's definitely not our default.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that would be, I think, and I look forward to the hearts and minds that want to engage in those kinds of things on their own journey, with us. So. Awesome. All right, gang. If you want to learn more about the community, you can go to themindfulceo.com/invite. There's a video there by Aaron and I talking about the format of the group and an application button. So if you want to do that, go check that out. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.